Hi, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and for unboxings.com, and today I have the Acer Aspire 4810T in this brown box, which we're going to just take a very quick look at before we actually go away and review it properly. It will be only a quick tour. So first of all, we have a couple of power cables, one for UK, one for Europe, actually possibly USA there in actual fact. And then we have the laptop itself inside a bag, which we'll just look at in just 1 second once we've had a chance to move the rest of the stuff out of the way. And finally, that's it for this particular review model. Bearing in mind this is a review model, has been out to other reviewers, so you know, it's possibly, well, in actual fact isn't going to be complete package, because all we have other than the power cable and the laptop itself is a charger. Pretty standard thing. It's a light on inline charger, nothing terribly special about it. So you'll note that there are no manuals or additional cables, CD-ROMs, you know, DVDs with recovery software or anything like that in the package. So I would expect to see that in the actual retail. So the laptop itself, let's say the Aspire 4810T, is extremely slim. Okay, it's not as slim as perhaps the you know, MacBook Air or whatever, but it is quite thin. It is quite attractive shade of this sort of silvery grey, and doesn't appear to be very heavy. Bearing in mind the battery is installed, doesn't feel particularly heavy. The weight is actually 1.95 kilos, so just under 2 kilos. So take a look around the outside before we open it up. We have a USB connector here, a VGA connector, and an HDMI connector, which is very cool. I'm pretty impressed, and I like to see these laptops with the HDMI connector. It does mean that you can hook it up to your large plasma TV or LCD or whatever. So I think that's really cool, and especially if you're going to use them as media player devices and whatever else, I think that's really good. Another USB connector. We have a microphone and headphone connector. Headphone connector does support SPDIF, or Sony Philips Digital Interface, I believe that stands for. That's supported there too on that same connector. On the front then we have an SD card reader slot, which also supports memory stick, Pro and XD memory cards, all in one slot. Cool that it's right on the front there, and extremely useful. On the other side, we have another USB connector, and this slot here is in actual fact the CD-ROM drive or DVD-ROM drive. This particular model has the ODD Super Multi-Drive, so it's a reader-writer and everything else. Looking further back then, we have the Ethernet connector, so we can plug it into a wired network. We also have the charger socket, and then space for Kingston mobile lock, so you can actually secure it to table, desk or whatever. On the back, this section here is actually the battery, which you can see here is two switches release the battery, like so. Battery pops out. It's not a terribly large battery, not particularly heavy, which is quite interesting, because the claimed battery life of this particular model, if it lives up to it, will be particularly phenomenal considering the size of the battery. We have seen claims that battery life for this model is up to 9 hours, partly because it's got a 1.4 GHz processor, which is possibly lower end in terms of speed. It is a Core Duo too, but it's low voltage, and so it does give it an extended battery life. Now, as I partially open the screen here, you can see just how thin the screen is, exceptionally thin. Remember the old days when laptop screens were, well, the actual screen was almost half of the size of the actual laptop, you know, itself. And so that is really very thin, probably only about you know, 6mm thick there. So that's quite cool. Opening up then, we have the display, which is 1366 pixels wide and 768 high. So therefore supporting 720p video, HD video playback. Very cool. Sadly, there is no Blu-ray player in this particular model, but you know, you can play 720p HD footage back. That would be very good. On the top we have a forward-facing camera, 1 megapixel camera for your video conferencing or anything else, and there's a small microphone just at the top there. Keyboard itself very nicely laid out, and looking kind of similar to the keyboard that we see on Apple Mac and MacBooks, where the keys are completely individual, very well spaced out, and completely flat in the actual surface. As you can see there, totally flat across the face there. Nice and shiny, and as I say, individually spaced and everything else. So yeah, kind of Apple-ish. There's another key here, like a soft key or whatever else. Not sure the specific purpose of that. We'll mention that when it comes to the review. Then we have the trackpad, and below that we have what looks to be 1 button. Obviously it's 2 rocks backwards and forwards for left and right mouse buttons. And it's a fair size trackpad, not the largest, but certainly far from being the smallest. Power button just at the top here. 1 speaker on the left, and obviously the one on the right. A couple of indicators, LEDs there to, status, hard drive access, Wi-Fi and everything else. And then we have an eject button, again fairly similar to the Mac, having an eject button actually is a physical button just above the keyboard. So that's your CD-ROM or optical drive eject there. That's pretty much it for the sort of hardware-wise around the outside, the physical features and everything else. As you can see on the front here, what we missed just a moment ago, is a battery status bar, which is a series of LEDs along the front there. Rest of the spec, just a quick rundown. As I say, 1.4 gigahertz Intel Mobile Core 2 Duo processor. That's an SU9400. This particular model has 4 gig of RAM. There are other models available within the 4810T range. This model has 4 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive, which is pretty cool. As I say, that's ODD Super Multi Drive optical drive there. The graphics chipset is a GMA 4500 MHD graphics chipset. Display is 1366 by 768. HDMI output plus D sub. Windows Vista Home Premium. Does come with 1 year's international return to base warranty, which I would assume is possibly upgradable. Dimensions: 338mm wide, 240 from front to back, and 29mm thick at its thickest point. It does actually taper slightly. So yeah, quite an attractive looking design, not particularly heavy, nice and slim. Let's actually go away now and we'll do our full written review, which you can find on site on tracymac.co.uk. That'll be up there within the next couple of weeks, and we'll actually confirm what we've found in terms of the battery life, performance, and everything else, and how we've actually enjoyed using the Acer Aspire 4810T. One thing I will just point out that's just sort of come to mind is actually the lack of firewire connector, which is actually a bit of a shame, to be honest, because a lot of camcorders and certainly like the higher end memory card readers and so on do use the firewire connector, so it's a bit of a shame that that's not included. But that's really the only thing that sort of stands out and brings to mind in terms of what's missing. It does have built-in Wi-Fi, as you would expect, which supports A, B, G and N standards, and as well as having that is actually Gigabit Ethernet capable socket there as well. So all in all, pretty cool, pretty well specified. As I say, the review will be online on tracymac.co.uk over the next couple of weeks, and I hope you'll join us again for another unboxing video very soon.